The 8 compatibilities every Christian single should check before saying I do. It's going to be a very interesting conversation we're going to be having today, and I particularly love this episode. So let's start this journey together. Have you ever looked at a couple and thought they were perfect for each other, then 6 months down the line, they either divorced or they never even made it to the wedding? And then you begin to wonder, how can two people love each other, pray together, perhaps serve in church together, and they still discover that they were never meant to spend their lives together? Here's the truth. Love is powerful. But I like to say this in every single relationship seminar I've ever gone to, we have ever spoken, and in the ones I organize, that love is not enough. And I know that's very unpopular, but you see, we've been raised on movies that tell us that if two people love each other deeply enough, everything else will somehow work itself out. It doesn't. I mean, even the Bible tells us that true wisdom is a house built. Not true love, but true wisdom. You see, because marriage isn't built on love alone. Marriage is built on structure. And that's where wisdom comes to play. Now, before someone gets into the comments and says, PC, are you saying love doesn't matter? No, absolutely not. I'm not trying to cancel out love. I'm trying to save it. You see, structure determines whether a building survives the storm. Jesus even gave us that story in the Bible. It talks about 2 men who built houses. The storm came to both houses. One stood, one collapsed. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, an unbeliever, the storms will come. Now, understand this very carefully. The storm wasn't the difference. The foundation was. Relationships are exactly the same. The question isn't, will storms come? They will. The real question is, will what you've built survive the storm? And that's the conversation I want to have with you today. All right, so welcome to BYSID. Before you say I do podcasts, on this channel, I teach you foundation-laying truths that would help you prepare, all right, and set the stage for an extraordinary marital experience. Now, today I want to give you 8 compatibilities that every Christian single should examine before they say I do. Not because I'm trying to make dating more complicated, absolutely not, but because I want to make divorce less likely. And it's because wisdom is the guiding principle for this. Before we proceed to number 1, please subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like so that it reaches other people who are out there asking the same questions that led you to this channel today. Let's go. Number 1. It may seem like a cliche, spiritual compatibility, but I want to take you on this journey and explain what I mean. You see, you don't just marry someone's body, you marry the direction their soul is traveling. This is where many Christians unintentionally deceive themselves. You see, we ask this question, are they Christians? Are they born again? But you see, that's the wrong question. And I'm speaking specifically for the purpose of dating relationship. All right. I think the right question should be this: how seriously do they pursue Christ? Because it's the pursuit that helps you understand what is inside them. Because 2 people can both attend church every single Sunday and they are still worlds apart spiritually. You see, one reads the Bible because they genuinely hunger for God. They are genuinely serious about God. The other person opens the Bible when the pastor asks everyone else to open it. One of you prays because conversations with God is your life. And the other person, prayer is when the world is falling apart. The person only prays when they think that it is absolutely necessary. And those are not small differences. These differences are trajectories. They are telling you in what direction both of you are traveling. And trajectories matter. Imagine 2 airplanes leaving Lagos or leaving in a particular destination. One is headed to point A and the other one is headed to point B. Now, for the first few minutes, they appear to be traveling in almost the same direction because they both leave the same airport. But give them enough time, guess what happens? They get to different destinations. And that's exactly how relationships work. Many couples mistake proximity for alignment. And just because you are walking beside someone today doesn't mean you are heading towards the same destination. You see, Amos asked a timeless question, and anybody who is going to get into a relationship would have asked themselves that question: can 2 work together unless they have agreed? And that is the compatibility question. You see, agreement isn't about enjoying the same music or supporting the same football team. It's about agreeing on what your life is ultimately about. Will your marriage exist to glorify Christ or simply to make both of you happy? And those are different visions entirely. All right. You see, here's something I've noticed. Whenever 2 believers are growing at different spiritual speeds, one person almost always becomes frustrated. You see, the person pursuing God feels lonely. The other feels pressured. Eventually, one starts slowing down and the other starts pulling away. Neither is healthy. You don't need someone who's spiritually perfect. None of us are. But you need someone who is traveling in the same direction as you are. Not necessarily at the same speed. You know why? Because if it's the same direction and you are ahead, you become the motivation for the other person. So you see, marriage magnifies whatever already exists during dating. It doesn't ever fix it. And that's why spiritual compatibility is very important. You need to sit down and ask yourself those very fundamental questions. And that's why I will always tell people this. Marry especially someone who has the same spiritual belief systems as yourself. Most likely someone from the same church that most likely believes in the same style of leadership and spiritual coverings that you have. And so you want to sit down and ask those questions. Which spiritual leaders do you honor? Which of them do you look up to? And all of those very nice questions. That's spiritual compatibility. And number 2, purpose compatibility. And I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible so that you can absolutely get this particular point. You see, love can survive distance. It struggles to survive opposite destinations. And there's something we don't talk about enough. Is it that purpose question? It looks like a cliche. So wonderful people can genuinely love each other and still not belong together. Is it not because either of them is bad, but because God may have called them to different assignments? A footballer and a pastor, how do they mix? Never. See, a great relationship doesn't just answer, do we enjoy each other? It also answers, can our callings coexist? Suppose one person dreams of planting churches across rural Africa. The other person dreams of building a multinational company that requires living in London, New York, Dubai, any other country. You see, neither of those dreams are bad. But if neither is willing to adopt and adapt, you see, what happens to love? Love eventually begins competing with purpose, and that's a dangerous thing. Because whenever love starts fighting purpose, someone quietly begins to resent the other person. And do you know it's very possible to resent a God-given dream? Why? Because that dream does not align with your direction. And the tragedy is that resentment rarely arrives loudly. It grows silently. It begins with little sacrifices that you're compromising, then missed opportunities. You got a contract somewhere you can't go, then unspoken disappointment until one day someone says, I love you, but I don't know who I am anymore. And you see that question that thing you just heard, that is the biggest cause of heartbreaks. And that's not usually because they stop loving each other. It's because they stop becoming who God designed them to be. The right relationship should not make obedience hard. It should make obedience easier, not harder. So ask yourself this question. Does this relationship move me closer to God's assignments for my life or further away from it? Because if you don't ask that question, you'll resent the other person one day. Purpose is loud. It's bigger than love. It jumps at your heart in the night, morning, day, every single place you go to. And that's one of the most important questions you would ever ask before saying I do. Now, before we continue, I need you to hear something very, very important. Compatibility isn't discovered on your best days. It's revealed on your ordinary days. Anybody can be patient during a romantic dinner. Anybody can be kind on Valentine's Day. Anybody can say you're amazing while they're trying to impress you. But ordinary life has a way of stripping away performance. That's why dating shouldn't be about collecting beautiful moments. It should be about observing consistent patterns, because patterns tell the truth. So let's go over to number 3, emotional compatibility. Now let me beg you, you don't marry the version of someone that is smiling, the highlight reels. You marry the version that comes out under pressure. I mean, have you heard that analysis about when you squeeze the orange, it is orange that comes out of orange? That's a very true statement. You see, I don't think enough Christians ask themselves this question. How does this person handle their emotions? I say, if you watch my other videos when I talked about red flags, I'll tell you how to spot these things out. You want to observe the way they relate with their friends, their family, and a whole lot of other things. Please go look for my videos on red flags, all right? And I'm going to paste it in the comment section as well so that you can, just click on it and watch it after this video. You see, emotions don't disappear after marriage. They become amplified. Some people shut down, others explode. Some avoid difficult conversations. We call such people avoidant. All right. Others create one every single week. Now, the issue isn't whether someone has emotions. God gave us emotions and they are beautiful things. The issue is whether those emotions are mature. You see, I've watched couples spend hours talking about wedding colors, but they've never discussed what happens when one of them is deeply hurt. And that's dangerous. You see, when I do counseling for couples, I have a questionnaire that they must sit down and attend to. And one of such questions, there are about 6 or 7 questions in that questionnaire, is about conflict resolution. Conflict doesn't destroy relationships. Immaturity during conflict does. You see, watch how they respond when they are disappointed. Watch what happens when you correct them. Watch how they behave when life doesn't go according to plan. Do they become defensive? Do they withdraw? Do they manipulate to silence? Do they guilt trip you? Or can they say something incredibly powerful? I was wrong. And trust me, when you can find someone who can say that genuinely and take corrections, you found someone really, really cute for you. Do you know how attractive humility is? It's one of the rarest qualities in relationships today. It's very rare, even amongst Christians, because pride always wants to win the arguments. And why is that so? Because everybody has ego. Humility wants to protect the relationship. You see, the book of James said, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Notice it doesn't say don't get angry, it says be slow. There's maturity that refuses to let emotions become the driver of decisions. And these are the questions that you really ought to ask yourself. Can this person regulate their emotions? Or will I spend my marriage managing them? These are two completely different futures. Because if one person's emotional world constantly becomes the responsibility of the other person, eventually love starts feeling like parenting, and that's exhausting. Some people say that's just how I am. No, that's how you've remained. There's a difference between who you are and what you chose to remain as. If that's just how I am has been your excuse for the last 10 years, that's no longer personality. That's a subscription to a life of failure. You see, healthy marriages aren't built by emotionally perfect people. They are built by emotionally responsible people. And you want to figure this out for yourself. Number 4, intellectual compatibility. Let me land this very loud and clear. Conversation is the oxygen of marriage. You see, I've met couples who spend 4 hours on the phone saying absolutely nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. Me too. Okay. Wonderful. Then there's this one that happens a lot with singles. Have you eaten? How was your day? And you don't have enough answers to even project what you want to give the person. But see, one day you will need to discuss bigger issues, parenting, how do we handle the kids? How do we handle grief? There's a loss of job somewhere. How do you communicate? Just big questions you got to answer. Financial questions. How do we spend this money, this bonus that came to my office? If you can't have it now, you're not going to have it then. And nothing you do today, if you don't work on that part of you, will help you work on this in marriage. You see, when conversation dies, something else is dying, and slowly, but it dies. Intimacy. Intimacy follows slowly when communication and conversation is dying. So one of the biggest myths about attraction is this: if we are physically attracted to each other, everything else will work out by itself. No, it's a lie. It's a big lie. You see, physical attraction gets your attention. Conversation keeps your heart engaged. If you would like to watch my video on how love fades, I talked a whole lot about this. I'll put that as well in the comment section so you can just have in the description, so you can just have a click on that link and then go watch it. Now think about it. You're not going to spend 40 years kissing. You're going to spend 40 years. Guess what you'll be doing? The biggest thing you're going to do in your relationship, talking. You're going to spend 40 years talking over breakfast, talking while driving, talking after disappointment, talking while raising children, talking when life becomes uncertain. Can you actually enjoy those conversations? Or do you become exhausting after 20 minutes? You don't know how to hold the conversation. I had one of my guys who started a relationship. He's talking with a lady. They're having a very good time. But guess what? Every single thing the lady says to him, he's preaching back at her. He's not asking questions. The lady says, I'm afraid. He gives her a scripture. The lady's excited. Right on, pastor. But guess what? Something is dying. And they both don't know it. Thankfully, I got to know about the relationship and I stepped in and I said, hey, start asking the questions. Why are you afraid? What triggered this fear? When did you notice this? This is what builds intimacy. It's about curiosity. Can you learn together? Can you challenge each other respectfully? Can you disagree without making the other person feel stupid? You see, one of the healthiest signs I've ever seen in a relationship is when both people make each other better thinkers. Instead of competing, they sharpen each other. The Bible says iron sharpens iron. So one person sharpens another person. If you notice carefully, notice what iron is sharpening. It is sharpening iron. There's no friction. You see, but the friction produces something useful when iron sharpens something else. And when you begin to notice that there's a lot of friction, what do? You begin to make the right adjustments. Ask yourself this question: when I leave conversations with this person, do I feel smaller or do I feel stronger? You see, because the right relationship should stretch your thinking, not shrink your confidence. A young man once told me, he said, PC, she's perfect. And I asked him, tell me about her. He spent 5 minutes talking about how beautiful she was and a whole lot of very nice things. Then I asked this one question: how does she handle money? No answer. I've never asked her. How does she respond when she's corrected? Still no answer. What's her relationship with her family like? Still no answer. Guess what I told the guy? My brother, you don't know her, you admire her. And that's very important. Number 5, financial compatibility. Now, don't go off the video. Just listen to this very carefully. Money rarely destroys marriages. Different beliefs about money is what destroys it. It's how you spend the money. You will spend. Let's be honest, most couples don't fight over money. They fight over what money means. For one person, money represents security, and for another person, freedom, luxury. And for someone else, it's status. So you can see how this becomes a problem when you start a relationship and you're planning on getting married. Imagine a husband who believes that every extra naira should be invested, and his wife believes that every extra naira should be enjoyed. Neither of them is necessarily wrong at all. But without sitting down to converse, to have that conversation, every payday becomes another battlefield. That's why financial compatibility has very little to do with income. I've seen couples with very little completely united. The difference really wasn't about the amount, it was about agreements. And that's why we talked about communication and conversation earlier. So before you marry someone, ask these questions: how do they spend? How do they save? How do they give? How do they handle debt? How do they respond when money is tight? And please, if you're a lady, ask that guy that question, because money changes the man's mood. You see, because financial pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it, it brings it out. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Money has an unusual way of exposing what truly matters to us. So if someone constantly spends to impress people, marriage won't suddenly change that person. If someone is generous before marriage, that generosity usually continues into marriage. If someone is secretive about finances while dating, don't expect transparency after the wedding. Marriage magnifies habits. And I've said this in many of my other videos. It really replaces them. So don't just ask, can they provide? No, that's not the question. Ask, can we steward what God entrusts to us together? You see, because provision builds a house, but stewardship sustains it. Let me tell you something I've observed after watching relationships for years. Most people don't break up because they argued. They break up because they argue the same way over and over and over again. Different issues, same pattern. You see, that's why the next 3 compatibilities are often the ones people discover too late. So let's talk about compatibility number 6, conflict compatibility. You don't discover compatibility when you are laughing together. You discover it when you're hurting each other, and you will hurt each other. This is the question nobody asks before marriage. How do we fight? And I'm not talking about physical fight. Please, you do not throw punches. You do not hurt the other person. There should be no physical altercations during your relationship. That's not the goal. All right. Notice I didn't ask whether you fight. Every relationship has disagreements. So whenever someone tells me we've never argued, I usually have 2 thoughts for that person. Either you've been dating for 9 business days or years, whatever it is, or somebody in that relationship deserves an Academy Award. And in fact, if you've never disagreed, one of 2 things is really happening. Either you've only known each other for a few seconds, let me use seconds, no matter how long the duration has been, or somebody in that relationship isn't being honest. Conflict isn't the enemy. Conflict is a mirror. It reveals insecurities, it exposes pride, it reveals compatibility, it reveals foundational errors that needs to be corrected, not rushed away from. It uncovers expectations you never knew you had. The problem isn't that 2 people disagree. The problem is how they disagree. Now, I've seen people who never raise their voices, yet every disagreement leaves the other person emotionally bleeding. Then I've met couples who argue passionately, and 15 minutes later, they are laughing together. You know why? Because they know how to repair. That's the word I want you to remember: repair. All right. And it's why you got to check the emotional compatibility, which we've talked about. You see, healthy couples repair, unhealthy couples recruit evidence. Every disagreement becomes another opportunity to prove, see, this is exactly who you are. Someone said to me one time that this is exactly the issues, and I never even knew about the issues. The person just brought it up one random conversation that I wasn't even expecting. Healthy people don't fight to win, they fight to understand. There's a world of difference. You see, Apostle Paul gives an instruction that sounds very simple until you're angry. He says, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. He wasn't saying every disagreement must be solved before bedtime. Some conversations take days, some wounds take weeks. And I'm not advocating that problems should exceed a day. No. But I'm just trying to let you understand that there are certain dynamics that may create such possibilities. But what Paul was saying is this: don't let unresolved anger become your roommate. You see, because anger that isn't resolved slowly becomes bitterness. And bitterness always collects interest. So even if you're spending days or weeks in that misunderstanding, what I think you should be doing is asking yourself, what should I be learning? What have I done wrong? What do I need to understand? Not allow yourself to justify why you have kept yourself silent for those number of days. So you should ask this question: can your future spouse apologize? It doesn't matter how many days. Not explain, not justify, not defend, but apologize. Can they receive correction? Can they say, help me understand what you are feeling? And that's a very important question during conflict. Or does every disagreement become a courtroom where someone has to lose? Marriage isn't built by people who never offend each other. Marriage is built by people who know how to find each other again after they do. So don't marry someone because they never upset you. She's gentle, he's gentle, he's calm. No, marry someone who knows how to come back. Number 7, family compatibility. Now, this is key. You are not just marrying a person, you are inheriting a story. And guess what? Family is a story. Because when marriage comes, you will live with the version of the family they were built in. You see, when you get married, guess what you're going to discover? That the foundations that has built your partner all through their years will begin to play out in the way both of you manage circumstances. An example is this: your partner wants to cook rice, you want to cook rice, and then you now discover that there are over 1,000 different ways your partner prepares rice that you don't prepare that rice. And you may be wondering, maybe we need to explore and enjoy each other's differences. But guess what? Those little things can actually make a very big impact. It's why I always tell people this: why don't you visit each other's families? Observe. Don't get there and start doing, mommy, daddy, oh, my dad, my father-in-law. Don't do that. Your goal is to observe and see what is going on in that family. Stop trying to farm unnecessarily. Stop trying to play the nice daughter-in-law that will make a nice whatever in the future, or the nice son-in-law that will be. Let me just say this very loud and clear. You go to your future family's home, your lady or your guy's home, and they start acting all gentle. I don't believe in such gentility. You know why? Because it's all forming. Eventually, your true colors will show. The goal here is for you to observe and see, how do they relate in this family? How do they do things in this family? How do they resolve crisis in this family? If you are one of my daughters or sons in the Lord, I always tell them this one question: how they treat their family is most likely how they're going to treat you in marriage. So one of the biggest mistakes singles make is believing that marriage starts with two people. It doesn't. Marriage brings two people's histories, two cultures, two traditions, two ways of seeing the world. Maybe in your home, growing up, everybody talked about problems, they sat down together, they discussed it. But in their own home, everybody scatters. Maybe your family celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, achievements. Mine, every December, it's for one, the New Year's for another person, and then the other family, they prefer to stay indoors. Now, it's not bad. The goal is for you to understand and then lay and put your building on the foundation that you've understood. All right. And if you don't understand this is where the biggest problem comes into play. Have you noticed how easily people say, that's just how we do things in my family? And guess where they say it? Not usually in the courtship, it's in marriage. That's how your family does things. Then the other person retorts. And then what happens? They get into a fight. You need to understand this family compatibility. It's non-negotiable at all. What did marriage look like in your home while growing up? Ask that question. Get to their house and observe how these things are handled. How is conflict handled? All right. How is affection expressed? How do they treat the children? These are the fundamental things that guides you in helping you understand what the family compatibility is all about. And it's a whole lot of time that you need to discover this. All right. You see, that's why healing matters before marriage. If you are not healed, you are most likely going to bring an unhealed version of you into marriage and then make a mess of your future marriage. Number 8, pace compatibility. Love isn't just about moving in the same direction. It's about being willing to move at the same speed. And this one is overlooked. Yet it quietly destroys many relationships. Sometimes two wonderful people meet at the wrong season. One is ready for marriage. The other is still discovering purpose. One wants children immediately. The other still wants 5 years of travel. One is emotionally available. The other is still healing from a previous relationship. Again, none of them is wrong. They are simply in different seasons. And the Bible says, to everything, there is a season. Timing matters. So imagine trying to harvest fruit that hasn't matured. You'll conclude the fruit is bad, when in reality, it just wasn't ready. You see, people do this all the time. They pressure someone into a season God hasn't prepared them for. Even in leadership, I've made that mistake with some leaders, putting them on pedestals that they were not ready for. Then they become frustrated when the relationship struggles. Love cannot replace maturity. Time cannot replace intentional growth. And pressure cannot produce readiness. So ask yourself honestly, are we walking at the same pace, or am I constantly pulling or constantly waiting? Because eventually someone gets tired. The healthiest relationships don't require one person to abandon their God-given season just to keep the relationship alive. Instead, they grow towards the same future at a pace both can sustain, and that compatibility, not perfection, alignment. One more thing. There's something I've noticed over the years. People spend thousands of their cash preparing for a wedding, venue, photography, food, decoration, music, outfits. Yet they spend almost no time preparing for marriage. And that's really fascinating. Now, we'll dedicate 6 months to planning one day and almost no intentional effort preparing for 40 years. Imagine a builder who spends more time choosing the color of the curtains than checking whether the foundation can support the house. We are going to call that person foolish. Yes, Christian relationships, and my focus is on Christian relationships. They do this every single day. They obsess over proposal, how you kneel down, the ring, the pre-wedding shoot, the honeymoon destination. Meanwhile, we've never had an honest conversation about conflicts, finances, about our calling, purpose, emotional health, family expectations. Then we wonder why beautiful weddings sometimes become painful marriages. Preparation isn't unromantic. Preparation is love in its most mature form. Because love doesn't only ask, how do I make you happy? Love asks, how do I help us last? And those are different questions. So before you say I do, ask yourself something much more important. Not, do I love this person? Most people getting married can answer that very easily. Ask this question, can we build a life that honors God together? Because attraction fades, feelings fluctuate, life changes. But two people who are aligned in purpose, anchored in Christ, committed in growth, if they humble themselves enough to learning, they can build something extraordinary. Not because they're perfect, but because they are building on the right foundation. Jesus ended the Sermon on the Mount with a picture that has stayed with me for years. 2 houses, same storm, different outcomes. The difference wasn't the wind, it wasn't the rain, it wasn't the difficulty, it was the foundation. So please don't spend your dating years decorating a house whose foundations you've not examined. Build slowly. Ask difficult questions, invite wise counsel, pray often, watch carefully. And if after all of that, you discover genuine compatibility, don't be afraid to commit wholeheartedly. Because healthy marriages aren't accidents, they are intentional. Now, if this conversation helps you, share it with someone who is dating, engaged, or praying about their marriage. You never know. One honest conversation today might save someone years of unnecessary pain today. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the BYSID before you say I do. Every week, we have honest biblical conversations designed to help Christian singles build relationships that don't just look good on Instagram, but stand the test of real life. So until next time, date wisely, love intentionally, and never stop becoming the person you are praying to find. God bless you.